What's going on, everybody? KD for the Wealth Wells. Just want to talk to you guys today about something I've noticed in traders. Certainly has happened to me when I first started trading, and I want to help you guys out with a little thing, something just to keep in your back pocket. I've got a series of audios out there in audio training that's available for the killer whales, and I'll make a few of them available for the general public so you can get a snippet of the type of mental development that we do inside the killer whales, inside the Wealth Wells day trading Discord. But it's called the Back Pocket Knowledge Series. And it's just small bits of information here for you to digest and to put in your back pocket, or to just kind of keep in your mind as you're trading and to kind of prod you in the right direction. So I thought I'd take a little bit of time to help you with a kind of a behavioral pattern that I certainly have had to work on over the years, and new traders have to work on too. Now, the best way to define this pattern of behavior is to kind of describe it. So has this ever happened to you? You analyze the market, you're ready to trade, you plan out a trade, and then ding, 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 once the bell rings and you see the trade, you take a trade, you do something different. In the heat of the action, in the moment, something different happens, and you say to yourself, why did I take that trade? Why? I know better. I should not have done this. Why did I take that trade? Has that ever happened to you? Well, that has happened and continues to happen to a lot of traders. All right. A lot of traders. Why does it happen? What is it indicative of? And how do you fix it? Well, I'm going to call your attention to a book I read some time ago. And, excellent book. And the person that wrote the book is a leader in their field. They've won a Nobel Prize for the research and development. And the book is called Thinking Fast and Slow, written in 2011 by a man by the name of Daniel Kahneman, right? Excellent research. And the book basically highlights that there are two, if you will, forms or modes of thinking. Now, in that book, he explains that there's something called fast thinking and slow thinking. Now, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand what fast and slow thinking is. Here it is in short. Basically, fast thinking, it allows us to respond to challenges that are at the immediate present, right? Make a decision. So the example can be driving a car, something happens on the road, you adjust, you correct, you move out the lane, you do something that's fast, it's reactive, right? That's the rapid processing of your brain allows you to avoid an accident, to respond to things that happen fast, even respond to crises that happen in your life, right? Now, if we had to take a long time to think through that process, we would likely get into a car accident. We wouldn't be able to make a decision. We'd almost get shell shocked, if you would. We'd be frozen, almost having an analysis paralysis moment, right? So if we had to think through every aspect of what was happening on the road as we drive, we wouldn't be able to adjust to traffic, right? Now, the problem with thinking fast, according to the book, is that it's very surface thinking. It's not deep. We look at something, we assess it, we make the decision, right? We see how relevant it is, how it impacts, what the impact is going to have, and we come up with a solution very fast. We respond quickly, right? So we go back to the car analogy. If there's a car coming on to you very fast, hey, I better move out the way. I'll swerve to the left, to the right. And you make a fast decision, right? And so that can help us. That can save lives. But unfortunately, the negative is it could highlight biases. It could highlight a bias, right? So, for example, we may make a decision very fast to swerve out the way. But maybe we have a bias in another situation, we have a bias about a person or a race or a culture or something like that. And when we're around that culture, we do something like clench our purse, lock our doors, cross the street, right? You know what I'm talking about. These are real things that people demonstrate in daily life. Why? Because this rapid processing, it allows the bias to drive the action. And it happens in everyday life with people, period. All right. So, in many of my discussions, I've talked about cognitive bias. I've talked about that in some online discussions and some Mindset Mondays. So this is a result of that cognitive bias as well. All right. Fast processing, really it takes over. It takes control of the decision. Those biases kick in and your actions follow. Now, on the opposite side, you have slow thinking. Now, I'm pretty sure you can guess what that means. It's just another way of talking about deep meditative thinking, slow thinking, deep meditative thinking. Now, I'm not talking about meditation that most people in the world think about, where they sit with their legs crossed and clearing their mind. No, meditative thinking is taking a subject and drilling down, asking questions about the subject, pulling up other articles and data research about the subject, making notes about the subject, really drilling down, almost like a self-taught learning, deep thinking exercise. That's slow thinking. Now, it's done in slow mode, right? We observe, we write down all of our observations, we analyze the data, right, that we've observed, and we come to a conclusion based on that, right? Now, this type of thinking process is less likely to be, influenced by some type of bias that we may have, right? It takes a lot of mental resources to do deep thinking. And that's why, quite frankly, a lot of people fail in day trading. And they conversely, if you really want to take it to a further, or I should say, in addition to that, if you want to take it to a longer or down the road or larger impact, it's why people also may fail in life. It's because they don't do deep thinking. They don't do critical thinking, right? So, and that's one reason why, when you're, for example, going back to the car, you drive a car, you're having a conversation, you can still make a decision. But you're driving a car and you're trying to text or do anything else. Well, it's not likely that you're going to solve a complex math problem while you're driving a car. Right? Why? Because your fast thinking side of your brain or portion of your brain is engaged. And to solve complex issues, to do critical thinking, you need the slow side or the slow aspect, right? Or portion of your brain. You need to engage that ability, right? So that's a big reason why you can't, you're not going to solve any problems while you're driving and texting and these things. No. You need to be focused, and one side of your brain or one side of your thinking ability, should I say, is more engaged. All right. So if we're talking about day trading, though, and being efficient in day trading, we have to highlight that there are different types of traders, not different types of day traders, but different types of traders. Now, you've heard me say this before. Some people are swing traders masquerading as day traders. Some people are investors masquerading as day traders, right? Why do I say that? Well, a lot of times when a person is trying to be efficient, they will lean heavily on the fast thinking side of things, right? So that they can, in the moment that is, so that they can make a snap decision, right? Many of our decisions that we make, a lot of times in life, they're based on initial, first impressions, right? People oftentimes don't carefully reason out things. They just meet somebody, and after a little bit of time, maybe the person talks too much, or maybe they talk in a high squeaky voice or something like that, or maybe they just don't gel with your personality. You're like, I don't like this person. Has it ever happened to you? Meet the person for the first time. The conversation didn't go the way you wanted it to go, and you're like, nah, I don't like them. Has it ever happened to you? Or you're using a bias. You're making a fast decision, right? And then now we go back to what we said in the beginning. If you trade in the market, has this ever happened to you? You plan it out, but then something goes different, and you don't act on the plan. You make a snap decision contrary to the plan based on the current market conditions, right? So why does that happen? Well, it's not necessarily that the person hasn't developed discipline just yet, right? That's not necessarily the case, okay? Discipline, I believe, is at the core. But one part of this is recognizing that you are engaging one side, I would say, of the thinking process as opposed to the other. All right. So in this case, when you get into a trade and you go against your plan, it's because your fast thinking side of your brain has taken over. It's affected your reasoning. So in that book that Daniel Kahneman writes, he points out that there's a different part of the brain that controls our fast and slow processing, sometimes taking control at the least opportune time, right? So if you can kind of think of your brain as a supercomputer, right? Nothing like it. It's the most powerful muscle. But if you can kind of think of it as a supercomputer, maybe this will help you to really put this into context. Every computer has a processor, right? So you think of your brain as having two processors, right? And it's processing independent information in each processor, right? Well, one side has a specific pattern of processing and the other side has a different type or pattern of processing, right? And you could say one side has a different level of intelligence and how it processes data and spits out that data, and the other side has a different level of intelligence. Okay, so a person could be a fast thinker, and they could also be a deep thinker at certain times, or in different elements, they can be both. But what we found is most people have a dominant side when they are in the market or when they're transacting and conducting business or when they are just kind of going about their day. There's a dominant personality type, right, in everyone. Now, you guys know I am big on talking about trade identity. So these are some things that I take into consideration when I'm helping a trader build a trade identity so that we can form a trade plan that fits to your personality type so that you can get better. All right. So here's an example. Think of a salesperson, somebody who's good in sales, or anybody who has a job where they have to make a fast decision and adjust, right? They have to kind of respond to your tone or your cadence. They've got to respond to your body language. They've got to respond to your needs. Well, that person is usually fast, not just fast talking, but they think fast. They've got an array of different options in their mind of where they can help you to fulfill your needs, and they're going to make the sale, right? That's a fast mind or someone thinking fast. They have the ability to process data quickly and rapidly change with the information. They can use that information now to make different decisions and, just kind of come out with the favorable result, right? Now, as a rule, don't, take me out back and beat me with this statement, but just think about all the people who are fast thinkers. As a rule, they're not the most intellectual people. Notice I didn't say intelligent, intellectual people. They're not necessarily deep thinkers for the most part. Are there spurts where they do some deep thinking? Yes. But for the most part, they're not, right? But they process information very fast, very well, very quickly, and they're very flexible, right? Now that's the salesperson or anyone who has a job where they've got to make those split decisions, right? Now, what's the point there? Well, the point is our behavioral patterns and how we think is the base for how we trade, right? So now let's take the opposite end. Let's talk about the slow, right? The slow thinker, okay? Think about the people that you know who are very intellectual people, super smart, right? Well, a lot of times they seem to lack practicality or practical wisdom or miss social cues, right? Right? They don't really, they can solve a math problem. They can analyze and, drill down in data, but they do not read social clues really well. And we've seen this a million times, right? The nerd or the geek on the date, he doesn't know what to do with a pretty girl, right? But he's an awesome engineer. Now, coming from tech, I'm telling you, I've seen it a million times, right? Super smart guy or super smart girl can't get the social clues to save their life, right? They can tell you everything about, the network or an environment or something, but they can't necessarily make the decisions fast enough to respond. Now, here's an example. When you talk about, we'll use an example, car racing, right? Someone's driving a car super fast. Well, they're not the engineer. The race car driver doesn't necessarily know everything about how to build the engine, but that's not their job. Their job is to react fast. But the engineer could tell you everything about that car, couldn't he? He could tell you every single screw and electronic device and trigger, but he's not the one driving. Do you get the point? The point is, how we think is the base for how we trade. Now, how do we use this information? How do we use it to day trade, to get better? All right, well, a lot of times we think of day trading as just a monolithic or singular activity, right? This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to trade. We don't consider that there are other variables. But day trading has multiple layers. There's skills required, and those skills are applied in different ways, right? So, a lot of times when we're trying to day trade and we lack the ability to read the market and apply these different skills, it's not a matter of only being poor in discipline. It is a matter of our ability to process data individually, how we're processing data. This is why I've made the statement that some people just can't be day traders. They just can't. Now, the reality is most people can adjust because most people certainly have a fast brain and a slow brain. They have an area of their brain, or they have the ability to process some things fast, and they have the ability to process some things slower, be a deeper thinker. However, we all may have a dominant personality type or a dominant trait, all right? So one of the things that makes trading so exciting and interesting, and for some very difficult, is that it's a perfect mixture of fast and slow thinking, all at the same time sometimes throughout the day, right? So if you want to be better, one of the first things you're going to have to do is identify which side of the thinking, I would say, pattern type you are. What are you heavier on the deep, slow thinking side? Are you heavier on the fast thinking side? And which side of the house do we need to develop more, right? If you are going to perform, if you're going to be a day trader, your deep data, deep dive and doing deep analysis on the market can't be done during the market hours. That's all in the prep work. When the market hour starts, you need to be a fast thinker. If you're going to be a swing trader, well, guess what? You're not super sharp on making fast snap decisions. You can spend most of your time throughout the day doing deep analysis to get the perfect entry for a longer term play. Do you see the point? Do you see how different skill sets lean toward different sides of our thinking patterns, which will form the base for how we trade? Now, when you get into tough situations, well, guess what? You're going to have to discipline yourself so that the opposing side of your thinking, behavior pattern or your brain doesn't take over and force you to do something irrational and get you out of your trade. All right. Now, a lot of times, successful traders in the market, they rarely excel at both. Did you know that? Successful traders rarely excel at both slow and fast thinking. They almost always are better in one side or the other, right? So if you want to be successful in the market, in day trading, and you understand that day trading, the prep work is going to be the slow thinking, the activity throughout the day is going to be the fast thinking, you've got to work on your fast brain. You've got to work on the ability to think and make decisions faster, right? To process this data, right? Now, don't worry. You can play to your strength. You can develop this strength and play to it, right? Now, what happens if you don't play to it? What happens if you don't develop this strength and you're like, well, I don't know what KD's talking about. This guy, no, he don't know what he's talking about. I can do this. Even though you haven't done any type of data or trade identity development worksheets that I've given traders to do, you haven't done any of the exercises, you haven't done any things for solution focused exercises, you haven't done any of that. You just think you're going to make it. What's going to happen? Well, here's what's going to happen. When you start to take some losses and you hit a bump in the road in your trading behavior, what's going to happen is you are going to switch between your fast brain and your slow brain, or these cognitive roles. You're gonna make an adjustment because you didn't understand your trade identity and you don't understand what's really happening. You're going to make a change prematurely. The fast brain, the fast thinker, they're going to overanalyze the markets and they're going to lose touch with what they need to do in the market. They're going to overanalyze. They're going to start engaging that slow brain, wasting time in that area, and it's going to impact their ability to make decisions fast. They're going to second guess themselves and they're going to miss the trades or take more losses. The slow brain, that person is going to become even more fearful, even more afraid of a loss, and they're going to start trying to turn into a scalper, making short-term decisions, adjusting when they shouldn't make that type of adjustment. Instead, they should have really analyzed their behavior in the beginning and formulated a plan, right? Either way, two things are going to kick in and make a trader start to take more losses. They're going to feel more stress and they're going to have pressure to make their money back. This is going to take you out of your trading zone and force you to start taking even more losses and into the red deeper. So just a little conversation I want to have with you guys. Some information I'm asked many times in our discussions. Well, Katie, do you have books that you recommend me to read? And tons of books to read. Get this book, Thinking Fast and Slow, produced by Daniel Kahneman, 2011. Excellent book, excellent research and case study in that book. You guys know I'm big on the mindset and the mental side of trading. All right. This recording may or may not make it to the Mindset Mondays, but I will put it in the back pocket knowledge section for the killer whales. Right. This will be inside of our private members only audio training. But I wanted to help you guys with what these behaviors are, what it looks like. And sometimes when you think you're making a bad decision and you can't catch yourself, you're like, why do I do this? And sometimes it may happen like all the time. You make a plan and then you go completely contrary to your plan. Well, it's because you now need to develop the fast and the slow side of your brain. And when you talk about day trading, you're going to need to develop the fast side of your brain. Then we're going to need to turn that side into a strength. Then we're going to have to show you how to lean into your strength. Lean into your strength. Wait a minute. Doesn't that sound familiar? Yes. I have a Mindset Mondays edition out there on the podcast, and we talk about that many times using our SWOT assessment every day, how to lean into your strength so that you can crush this thing every single day. Just a little tidbit here that I want to share with you guys to keep in the back of your mind, give you some things to think about and to work on as you continue to be a successful trader in the market. KD signing out.